The foodies in my audience should check this out. Our sponsor, Cook Unity, is a unique service that connects you with some of the best chefs in the country. Cook Unity is a collective of award-winning chefs who handcraft spectacular dishes in their local micro kitchens to arrive at your doorstep every week, always fresh and never frozen. They have hundreds of dishes to choose from, no cooking required. You heat it up and it is ready to eat. Go to cookunity.com/Pacman and use the code Pacman before checkout for 50% off your first week. Welcome, everybody. Hope you had a good weekend. There is trouble in paradise for failed former President Donald Trump and his new buddy, who may be on his way out already, JD Vance. New polling in critical swing states and in the alleged swing state of Minnesota, which is not really a swing state, despite Trump's claims that he's leading in Minnesota. New approval polling in critical swing states has Kamala Harris with higher favorability than Donald Trump. This is interesting for a few reasons, not the least of which, before Joe Biden said, I'm going to step aside and endorse Kamala Harris, one of the reasons that many on the right and left said that Joe Biden couldn't possibly win was that his approval rating, his favorability in some of these critical states was tied with or even below Donald Trump. By definition, if that is what we look at to say, hey, who can win these states? Kamala Harris now leading those favorability polls has to be a bad sign for Donald Trump. So let's discuss what is going on. Internet erupts after Fox News poll shows Harris beating Trump's approval in swing states. So let's put the specific results up on the screen. Of course, remembering that favorability is not polling. This is not how do you plan to vote. And actually, let's even clarify. You can look at a particular state and have three different types of polls. Who do you plan to vote for? Who do you like or see more favorably? And who do you believe will win? You might have a belief about who will win that's different from the person you're going to vote for. You might say, I plan to vote for Trump, but I believe Harris will win. These are three different types of polls. These are just favorability ratings. In the critical state of Wisconsin, Kamala Harris now leads Trump 49-47. In the critical state of Pennsylvania, Harris leads 49-46. In the not normally critical state of Minnesota, insofar as it's not usually close, Harris leads by 8, 51-43. And critically in Michigan, what a number. In Michigan, Kamala Harris leads Trump by 10 percentage points in favorability, 57-47. Normal caveats. This is a poll of registered voters with a margin of error plus or minus 3 points. This is not election polling. It's favorability polling. We're going to look at the election polling in a moment, but it is not a good sign about the direction that things are going for Trump. Spending the entire RNC did Trump and his fellow Republicans attacking Joe Biden, making the case as to why Joe Biden shouldn't, can't, must not be president. And Joe Biden is no longer the candidate. It will be interesting to see the media reporting, given that when Biden was below Trump in these same polls, the argument was Biden can't possibly win. What will they say now? And a couple of other notes on this. Newsweek also reporting on this. Kamala Harris's approval rating surges as Trump's falls. This is a different poll. So we just looked at the Fox News poll, which showed the approval for Trump is toilet down and Harris is up. There's also an ABC News Ipsos poll showing Harris's favorability overall at 43. That's up 8. And Trump's favorability down to 36. So we now have, on average, this is not at an individual state level, but on average, Harris leading Trump in favorability 43-36. These are really bad numbers for Donald Trump. There's just no way to spin it. Of course, the same right-wingers who were previously saying, oh, look at the favorability polling. Now we're going to say you can't trust the favorability polling. ABC News is blah, 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 George Stephanopoulos, liberal, I don't know. They're going to find some way out of it. Now let's take a step back, because favorability is different than who do you plan to vote for. If we look now at election polling in these critical swing states, bearing in mind that we only have a couple at most data points post Biden dropping out. What date did Biden drop out? It would have been the 21st. All right. So we only have a couple polls here from each state. In Wisconsin, it is effectively tied, Trump leading by an average of 0.7. 0.7. So a very tight race there, could go either way. In Pennsylvania is Trump's strongest performance. We now have 3 post-Biden stepping aside polls in Pennsylvania, and it is Trump +3. The problem with that is in that average, you have a Trump 7-point lead and 6-point lead that are before Biden dropped out. So I don't know that that's necessarily accurate. In Michigan, we have 2 polls post-Biden dropping out, and it's an average of Trump +1. And then Minnesota, no matter how many times Trump wants to tell us, oh, this is close. It's not close in Minnesota. On average, Kamala Harris leading by 8 there in Minnesota. So the shape of the race is certainly changing. And one of the really important aspects to this, not only the polling, not only the money that's coming in behind Kamala Harris, but it is what appears to be a growingly difficult situation for JD Vance, where rumors are now flying. This guy may not even, forget about November. JD Vance may not even make it to Labor Day on the ticket. Let's talk about that next. The vice presidential possibility for JD Vance appears to be on life support, with rumors flying that he may be removed from the ticket, with gaffe after gaffe after gaffe. Where to even start? There have been some wild email leaks from JD Vance exchanging emails with a former Yale Law School classmate who is transgender. And there are a bunch of interesting things here to talk about. But importantly, the picture I come away with is that JD Vance is a much more reasonable individual than his recent statements make him seem. That doesn't make him a better person for being willing to do this public 180 and say, I love Trump, Trump's great, everything Trump's doing is great. It actually makes him just as despicable. But my instinct that Vance probably still believes the things he used to say and probably still hates Trump are almost certainly true. Quotes from JD Vance's emails, which you can review in the New York Times. Quote, I hate the police. I can't imagine what a black guy goes through. That doesn't sound like MAGA Trumpism. That doesn't sound like the 2024 edition of JD Vance. Quote, I'm obviously outraged at Trump's rhetoric. There have always been demagogues willing to exploit the people who believe crazy S. Next week, I'll be able to say the full word once we're off radio and TV. That is a statement that is very much the old JD Vance and very much unlike the new JD Vance. JD Vance in these emails, quote, the more white people feel like voting for Trump, the more black people will suffer. Uh-oh, that doesn't sound like MAGA Trumpism at all. Previously, in these uncovered emails about Donald Trump, quote, he's just a bad man, a morally reprehensible human being. JD Vance hates Trump. He used to be very public about it. He now pretends not to, because he is going to be a heartbeat away from a 78-year-old obese guy from the presidency. But it's pretty damn clear that JD Vance hates Trump. He also is stepping in it with comments that those who are not parents should have less of a voice than parents. This isn't good, and this is angering people on the left, but it's also angering people on the right who believe this is the exact wrong direction that they should be going in.
When you go to the polls in this country as a parent, you should have more power. You should have more of an ability to speak your voice in our democratic republic than people who don't have kids. Let's face the consequences and the reality. If you don't have as much of an investment in the future of this country, maybe you shouldn't get nearly the same voice. Now, people will say, and I'm sure the Atlantic and the Washington Post and all the usual suspects will criticize me about this in the coming days.
Yes.
Well, doesn't this mean that non-parents don't have as much of a voice as parents. Doesn't this mean that parents get a bigger say in how our democracy functions? Yes, absolutely.
Yikes. I mean, listen, I don't know that you need a deep political analysis to understand why saying, by definition, at the top level, just definitionally, non-parents should have less of a say and parents should have more of a say. And now, of course, we have replacement speculation swirling. Independent reports Republicans are beginning to have second thoughts about JD Vance. JD Vance is faltering in the Midwest, a big problem for the GOP. Donald Trump may replace JD Vance within 10 days, according to Chuck Schumer. This is really not going well, really not going well. Here is JD Vance saying that the Harris campaign is against children, which is very much not the case.
This is about criticizing the Democratic Party for becoming anti-family and anti-child. We have to ask ourselves, Megyn, why do we have masking of toddlers years after the pandemic ended? Why do we have the Harris campaign coming out this very morning, Megyn, and saying that we should not have the child tax credit, which lowers tax
That's a lie.
rates for parents of young children? It's because they have become anti-family and anti-kid. And I'm proud to stand up for parents. And I hope that parents out there recognize that I'm a guy who wants to fight for you. I want to fight for your interests. I want to fight for your stake in the country. And that is what this is fundamentally about. The Democrats in the past 5-10 years, Megyn, they have become anti-family. It's built into their policy. It's built into the way they talk about parents and children. And it's time that we called that out. I don't think we should back down from it, Megyn. I think
No, maybe not back down, but maybe tell the truth. He says that the Kamala Harris wants to cut the child tax credit. Recall that the Biden-Harris administration grew the child tax credit to $3,000 per child and $3,600 for kids under 6, made it automatic with advanced monthly payments to qualified families. And it was the Biden-Harris administration that wanted Congress to make the credit permanent. JD Vance is lying. JD Vance is panicking. And if you want just one last little anecdote about how poorly things are going for JD Vance, here is JD Vance speaking before Trump at Trump's deranged St. Cloud, Minnesota rally, which we will get to later, and Fox News just cutting away.
All righty. Well, we've been listening to JD Vance at the Trump rally in Minnesota. And Tom.
All right.
Yeah, we're going to get away from that, aren't we? Not going to stick with this guy. This is a downward spiral. And if JD Vance makes it to November, it won't be because Trump's not disgusted with what's going on and the coverage and the things he's saying. It will be because Trump's ego won't allow him to admit that he made a mistake. Now, Chuck Schumer is saying this guy's got 10 to 12 days left before he's replaced. There are rumors about Trump's realizing that, especially now that he's running against Kamala Harris and not Joe Biden, Nikki Haley would have been the smart decision. Now, Nikki Haley may have been a smart decision regardless, because so many of Nikki Haley voters said, I don't know that I'm just going to switch to Trump if it's not Nikki Haley. In fact, many of them said I won't. Some of them said I'll vote Biden. Some of them said I'll stay home. Vance seems to bring Trump nothing electorally, just absolutely nothing. On the other hand, Nikki Haley seems like she would provide Trump with a useful chunk of the electorate. So rumors are flying. I have no idea whether it's plausible Trump is going to replace JD Vance, but it is going absolutely terribly no matter how you measure it. And by the way, this is sort of, it's not super relevant, but it goes to the idea that Vance probably hates Trump. The person who really seems to hate Trump is JD Vance's wife, Usha Vance. I tweeted about this, and you can find video of them doing a diner stop in St. Cloud, Minnesota. She genuinely seems miserable, and we know that she previously has referred to Trump as appalling and genuinely seems to find him disgusting. She is struggling. If you watch the video from this diner stop, and I wish I had it ready, but this just came to mind. It looks like a hostage video. She looks like she's there under duress, seems to want nothing to do with these photo ops. And if I had to guess, both of the Vances don't like Trump. JD Vance has decided this is all worth it to be a heartbeat away from the presidency. Usha Vance seems less clear on that. So we'll see how it all continues. And speaking of St. Cloud, Minnesota, after the break, just wait till you see how wrong this rally went. One of our sponsors today is Cook Unity, the first chef-to-you service delivering locally sourced meals from award-winning chefs right to your door every week, and it's cheaper than other meal delivery options. With Cook Unity, there is no cooking required for a chef-quality dining experience right at home. Unlike other meal services, Cook Unity is a chef collective made up of some of the best chefs in the country, bringing creative, delicious meals right to your door. Every meal handcrafted by chefs in local micro kitchens, not these massive production facilities. I recently had the caramelized mushroom quesadilla. Delicious, and the food arrives fresh, never frozen, in packaging that keeps meals fresh in the fridge up to 7 days. All of the Cook Unity packaging is compostable, recyclable, or reusable. You can pick as few as 4 or as many as 16 meals a week. There are hundreds of dishes to choose from, and the menu is constantly updated. They have 7 different dietary preferences you can pick from, including vegan, pescatarian, gluten-free, and others. Go to cookunity.com/Pacman. Use the code Pacman before checkout for 50% off your first week. The link is down below. Lest anyone forget, and especially after this Friday's final radio and TV episode, we are completely dependent on the support of our online audience, podcast listeners, YouTube viewers, Snapchat viewers, TikTok followers. We are primarily supported through the membership program, which you can find at joinpacman.com. It's easy, it's quick. 97.1 cents of every dollar stay directly within the show. The other 2.9% is just processing credit and debit cards. Memberships come with great perks, including the daily bonus show, commercial-free audio and video feeds of the show early every single day, and much, much more. Learn about it, read about it, sign up at joinpacman.com and get the full experience. In a demented rant, failed former President Donald Trump, civilly liable for sexual assault and convicted on 34 felony counts, says if he wins in November, you will never have to vote again. Not exactly the way that you will inspire confidence that you won't be a dangerous authoritarian autocrat, especially after telling people you do want to be a dictator on day one. Here is Donald Trump begging at this Turning Point action event, just vote for me, and you'll never have to do it again.
And again, Christians, get out and vote just this time. You won't have to do it anymore. 4 more years, you know what? It'll be fixed. It'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians. I love you, Christians. I'm a Christian. I love you. Get out. You got to get out and vote. In 4 years, you don't have to vote again. We'll have it fixed so good you're not.
Now, before we even get to this, it sounds like Trump says, I'm not a Christian, even though he has claimed to be a Christian since he entered politics. I'm going to play it back one more time because there's some controversy as to whether he says, I'm not a Christian, or whether he's saying I am a Christian but glitches. So let's see if we can figure it out.
You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians. I love you, Christians. I'm a Christian.
I don't know what he's saying there. It seems like he's saying I'm not Christian, but he does that glitch where it's almost like a short circuit and some syllable gets either removed or added extraneously. If Trump is saying I am not a Christian, if that's actually what he is saying here, that is very different than what he's been telling voters for a very, very long time. But the critical part here, of course, is that he told us he would be a dictator on day one. He said the Constitution can be suspended or terminated, parts or all, as necessary. And then he's doubling down and saying, if you vote for me this time, this is all the voting that's going to be necessary. He has made it clear he will go full authoritarian if he wins re-election. Now, if you ask the MAGAs, if you see what Chris Sununu, or who else was it that I saw laughing about this? I don't remember what other Republicans, they were asked about it. They basically just laugh it off and they go, oh, that's more of Trump being Trump. The reason the campaign was framed as a threat to democracy isn't because that incites violence against Trump, even though Republicans say, a Republican shot Trump because the left says it's a threat to democracy. Makes no sense. The reason we've been saying there is a threat to democracy here is because there is objectively a threat to democracy here. He talks to his beautiful Christians and he says, you won't have to vote again. That's also probably alluding to Christian nationalism. If you beautiful Christians put me in, we will make this officially a theocratic style Christian nation more than it already is, right? Because remember, there's one religion that gets federal holidays, and it's Christianity. Trump has also sort of waxed poetic about how great it is that President Xi in China is president for life. And remember when Trump said, maybe we'll try it in the United States someday. And I don't even know that I need to say this, but Trump's mostly getting a pass from corporate media on this. Yes, there were some stories. This should be the lead story in every American newspaper and television show, but it isn't. It's just a little question here, a little question there. As I just lost a light filter, and if one were to believe in divine intervention, I am now in the light, thanks to a filter that just fell off of my light. Let's fix that. All right, then no shortage of misfires and cognitive glitches for Donald Trump. Trump appearing to have some kind of issue saying Kamala Harris.
As a Senator think of this one.
There's Hara. Sounds like Bernie, actually. Twitter is a Hara. Trump also saying that Kamala Harris doesn't like Jewish people.
2 days ago, she refused to attend the speech in Congress of the Prime Minister of Israel. She said, I can't make it. There was just a small group of people, but they couldn't make it because that's her original thought. That's where she comes from. She doesn't like Jewish people.
Right. Other than her husband, of course, who is Jewish, she can't be near any Jewish people. Also, her stepkids who are Jewish, she doesn't. And by the way, as far as not attending Benjamin Netanyahu's speech, JD Vance didn't attend Benjamin Netanyahu's speech. If that's the barometer for liking or not liking Jewish people, then it sounds like the Trump-Vance campaign has also failed. Trump wrongly claiming everybody wanted Roe v. Wade overturned. This is something he tends to do in front of religious audiences, which that was the case here.
We've also achieved what the pro-life movement fought to get. For 50 years, they've wanted to get this. For 50 years, they've been working so hard, getting abortion out of the federal government. They wanted it out. That means everybody, Democrats, liberals, Republicans, conservatives, they wanted it out. And they wanted to bring it back to the states for 51 years, to be exact.
Now, of course, this is a complete and total lie. And you don't even need to think back or look at opinion polls. Look at every abortion-related referendum since the overturning of Roe v. Wade, and it'll give you a very obvious picture of whether the country wants Roe v. Wade or not. And of course, Roe v. Wade and more generally, abortion being legal in most cases was as popular as ever at the time that Trump's 3 Supreme Court justices decided, in combination with the other right-wing Supreme Court justices, to overturn Roe v. Wade. And then finally, Donald Trump did address his ear, and he says he's finally now been able to take the bandage off.
As I think you can see, I've recovered well, and in fact, just took off the last bandage off of my ear. I just got it off. I took it off for this group. I don't know why I did that for this group, but that's it. I think that's it. I hope that's it.
There you go. So Trump, he doesn't even understand why this was the time to take off the bandage. And of course, we will discuss this on the bonus show. The FBI has now clarified we now do believe Trump was hit by a bullet. What they now don't know is if he was hit by a bullet as a direct projectile from the AR-15 of the shooter, or whether he was hit with a bullet fragment of some kind that may have been tumbling, more of like a shrapnel piece of bullet. That's now the question. But Trump, and I'm not kidding, I'm glad he has recovered because I don't want to defeat this guy with bullets. I do want to defeat him with votes. Let's now go to St. Cloud, Minnesota. Donald Trump gave a speech in St. Cloud, Minnesota. the speeches indoors, which now will be the trend for Trump after the failed assassination attempt. And I want you to listen to the silence of the crowd, not the silence of the lamb, as Trump often talks about during these rallies. Listen to how quiet the crowd is as Trump trashes Kamala Harris as not smart.
And now we're replacing him with, worse than he is, a dangerous person who's not smart. You know she couldn't pass a law exam, right? Have you heard that? These are minor details. She couldn't pass a bar exam. She took the bar exam. She couldn't pass it. She thought she'd never be able to pass it. This is what we have wanting to be up. Other than that, she's a very fine woman. I'd like to make that statement.
And of course, nothing strikes man of the people more than making fun of someone because it took them 2 tries to pass the bar exam. And meanwhile, Trump University's an overt scam, as if Trump knows anything about education. Speaking about education and destroying public education, Trump again saying he won't give any money to schools with vaccine mandates.
And I will not give 1 penny to any school that has a vaccine mandate or a mask mandate.
And the crowd goes wild, except that's every public school. Every public school has vaccine requirements. You know who rejoiced? In addition to the people in this room in St. Cloud, Minnesota, polio rejoiced. Measles threw a party after hearing what Donald Trump said. Now, of course, there's 2 parts to this. There's the medical, which is there are diseases that we have successfully dealt with thanks to vaccines. And if we were to get rid of that, it would be a medical disaster. In addition to that, bye-bye to public education if indeed all federal government funding to any school with a mask, not a mask mandate, a vaccine mandate stopped, because every school has vaccine requirements. Now you might say, oh, David, that would be terrible. It would destroy public education. That's right. They want to destroy public education. That's part of the additional benefit of attacking vaccines in this way. Seemingly with no sense for satire, Trump says criminals will always be criminals.
A criminal is a criminal, and they generally stay a criminal, and we don't have time to figure it out.
Right. Of course, we should apply that to Trump. And it's always, well, no, but I'm not really a criminal. It's just that I was unfairly railroaded by the Biden Justice Department and a Trump-hating judge and a Trump-hating jury and Trump-hating prosecutors who lied and did this and then that. And then they got right. Just listen to what he's saying. Criminals tend to stay criminals. There's one criminal running, and it's Donald Trump. Pretty hard to argue with. Pretty hard to argue with. Revitalizing old rants, Trump also brought up Hunter Biden. And he asked the crowd, remember when I used to talk about Hunter Biden?
Where's Hunter? Remember the sign we did? Where's Hunter? That became, remember that one? I said, where's Hunter? The next day, my people are doing shirts. Where's Hunter? That was the big one.
Yeah. Remember the good old days where I would, talk about Hunter Biden? Wasn't that cool? Also still on the Kamala Harris's laugh is a problem train.
Margaret Thatcher didn't laugh like that, did she? Did she laugh? If she did, she wouldn't have been Margaret Thatcher. It's very simple.
As an absolutely rabid, failed attempt to criticize Kamala Harris, the laugh stuff really isn't working. And then finally, here you see as Trump is still speaking, lots of people filing out, just people everywhere, slowly heading for the exits in every single one of the, the stairs in between the various sections of seating. So not exactly a powerful speech, but if you want to see power, you have to see Pete Buttigieg's performance yesterday morning on Fox News. So let's take a quick break. Make sure you were subscribed to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/The David Pakman Show. It's free, and it's the best way to support us at no cost to you this election season. Hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Let's take a quick break. Then we'll check out what Pete Buttigieg did on Fox, and it is wild to see. Don't forget that the best way to support the David Pakman Show is by becoming a member, which gives you access to the daily bonus show, the regular show with no commercials. You also get access to our entire archive of every episode dating back a really long time and plenty of other awesome membership perks. Go to joinpacman.com, joinpacman.com. Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg took it right to the Fox News audience yesterday on Fox News Sunday. These clips going viral, and for good reason. He's doing 3, 4, maybe even 5 critical things when talking to MAGA, not the least of which is telling them, hey, by the way, you are in a cult, which is a great thing. Let's look at clip number 1. We're going to talk about all the different things that he's doing. This, of course, is the sort of performance that makes him a front runner in the minds of many on the left as a potential VP candidate, maybe someday as president. We don't know whether he's being considered. We don't know about the strategic virtue of 2 people from the same administration necessarily on the ticket. These are all separate questions. But this is exactly the sort of thing that Pete Buttigieg can do, which makes him such a good possible VP or presidential contender.
And was she aware of how he was doing?
We're all aware of how he's doing. Our country has watched our president lead. And yes, we've also seen the fact that he's 10 years older than he was 10 years ago. But unlike Republicans, right, who in Trump's personality cult will take a look at Donald Trump and say he's perfectly fine, even though he seemed unable to tell the difference between Nikki Haley and Nancy Pelosi, even though he's rambling about electrocuting sharks and Hannibal Lecter, even though he is clearly older and stranger than he was when America first got to know him. They say he's strong as an ox, leaps tall buildings in a single bound.
Well,
we don't have that kind of warped reality on our side.
Well, voters...
On the contrary, the president confronted that reality in what must have been one of the most difficult decisions for an American president to make ever. And he did something that I don't think Donald Trump could even conceive of doing, which is putting his own interests aside for the country.
There are so many important things there. Number 1, squeezing the word cult into the discussion of MAGA on Fox News is a great thing. It's not a big thing, but it's a great thing because it gets it into the ecosystem. Number 2, pointing out to the Fox News audience, Trump's brain seems to be melting. Trump's mistaking people. He's doing these deranged rants at rallies, so on and so forth. That's number 2. Number 3, pointing out that there is a media distortion here as well, where, hey, if you're not hearing that Trump is doing these things, maybe you should question why you're getting your news here, because they don't seem to be telling you about that. Number 4, the use of the Trump is weird and strange thing. It's whether you like, there's this whole thing now about how Kamala Harris and others in the Democratic Party are saying Trump's really weird, Vance is really weird. It's weird behavior. And it's not the most earth-shattering approach to the campaign, but it's showing that the left is completely united right now. Joe Biden has said it's not going to be me. The delegates and the money have come in behind Kamala Harris. We think Trump and Vance are weird, and you hear Pete saying it and you hear others saying it. It's just a reminder as to the united nature right now of the Democratic Party. And number 5, not allowing the host, I believe that's Shannon Bream, although don't hold me to it, not allowing the host to interrupt the points that he's trying to make, all in 60 seconds. This is really, really good stuff. Let's take a look at the next clip here. And this is on the topic of all of the broken promises of Donald Trump and the idea that it doesn't really matter what he says he's going to do. He's not going to do any of it.
The most, whether we're talking about choice and her stance on defending a woman's right to choose versus Donald Trump, who eliminated a right to choose in this country.
Well, he sent it back to the states, to be fair.
Let's be very clear. He is proud of the fact that he demolished the national right to choose in this country, period.
But there are states that are figuring this out. I mean, there are some that are, it's nearly impossible, a 6-week ban or less. But there are others, there are states in this country that allow no restrictions up until the due date of a child.
There was a national right to choose in this country, law of the land, for 50 years, which the vast majority of Americans believe was the right thing to do. But Donald Trump made a promise when he was a candidate, one of the few promises he actually kept, by the way. You know, he didn't keep his promise of 6% economic growth. He didn't keep his promise to drain the swamp.
He did have a pandemic to deal with.
But even before the pandemic,
even before the pandemic,
America went into a manufacturing recession, which really hurt places like where I come from in the
This should be, I mean, this is really good. This should be studied.
industrial Midwest. But anyway,
But
my point
unemployment
is,
was
my
low.
point is, he broke his promise for that kind of economic growth. He broke his promise to pass an infrastructure bill, right? He said he would do that. He failed to do it. The Biden-Harris administration got it done. He even broke his promise to that January 6th mob when he said, I will be at your side when you march down to the Capitol. But he actually did keep two promises. He kept his promise to destroy the right to choose in this country, and he kept his promise on tax cuts for the rich. And if you want to know what a second Trump term would be like, I would start by looking at those rare promises that he actually managed to keep.
He did say that he wanted to get rid of Roe v. Wade, but again, send it to the states where they are hashing this
empower
out
the states to
and have very
eliminate
different
women's access to abortion. And also, as you know, the Republican Party continues to be interested in a national abortion
which he's
ban.
disavowed completely.
Yeah, he's disavowed a lot of things. I don't believe him.
You
because
think
he
that
lies all the time.
You think that his pledge that he would not pass a national ban is one that
It's one that's going to go down with most of the promises that he's made and broke.
Yeah, this is absolutely excellent. This is really, really, really good. And the way you know that it's getting good is that the host starts kind of going, okay, got it. Thank you for your insights. I am no longer able to actually rebut what you're saying with any of my flaccid talking points. So thank you so much for providing us your perspective. That's a pivot that you see when it's not going well. Now, I want to play one more clip of this. And here is Pete Buttigieg talking about the crime numbers.
Was for it. The head of the CBP union was for it. And then Trump swooped in to kill it. Not because he thought it was bad policy, but because he didn't want that issue to get better. Because if it got worse, it would be better for him politically.
And I'll ask Senator Johnson about that, because there were a number of provisions that Republicans, including Mitch McConnell, ended up in the final product, felt that there was something they could not vote for there, and they could not move forward.
Come on. We know why they didn't move forward. They moved forward because Donald Trump swooped in. He said, I don't want Joe Biden to get a win.
They felt many of them that it was a flawed piece of legislation that had too many loopholes and other things they couldn't support. This is how Washington Post,
transparent what happened.
This is how they described the border situation. Illegal border crossing soared in the months after Biden took office and immediately rolled back many Trump-era restrictions. They go on to say the number of people taken into custody by the U.S. Border Patrol has reached the highest levels in the agency's 100-year history under Biden, averaging 2 million per year. And there's a lot of that attributed to the fact that there were dozens of things done under the Trump administration that this administration rolled back. And Vice President Harris is part of this administration and had a leading role, according to mainstream media, on handling the border.
Let's get real. Border crossings are down in the wake of President Biden's executive actions that he took after Congress failed to act.
So he could have taken action.
He wanted Congress to resolve that because that would have been more durable. But when Trump came in, talked Republicans out of their own bipartisan project because he didn't want the issue to get better. Remember,
yes,
the worse things are at the border, the better things get for Donald Trump. So he has a vested interest in it remaining chaotic down there. I think this also helps to explain why he didn't exactly conclusively solve it when it was his turn. But I saw something else really important happening at the Republican National Convention on the border and the talk about immigration, which we all recognize is a problem, which is they tried to paint this narrative that if you live somewhere far from the border and immigration hasn't affected you personally, you need to think that immigration is a driver of crime. That was the real message. Immigration leads to crime.
Well, there are blue state governors and mayors who say every state is a border state now. That's Democrats.
Yeah, and now they're saying, but the false message of the RNC was that this is leading to an increase in crime.
Well,
and I think it's really important that we talk about crime.
Have been very high profile about people. If they had not been in this country
cases,
illegally,
this is my
people
point,
would still
right?
be alive.
Trying to make people think that crime is up when crime is down under Joe Biden and crime was up under Donald Trump. Now, I don't know how often that gets reported on this network. So if you're watching this at home, do yourself a favor and look up the data.
Well, we invite that.
Great.
We're not going to we invite people at home to do it. We're certainly not going to give them the data, but we invite the people at home to do it. This is top-notch stuff. And one of the things about the last 4 years, including the 2020 primary and just more recently, is we have really learned that there is a very deep bench right now in the Democratic Party. Think about the number of people who could easily step in today and be president, and it would be just like no big deal. It would obviously be a big deal to have a president changed in the middle of a term. That's not what I mean. But what I mean is, think about if whatever the circumstances were, we had to say, hey, we need someone to be president now. Oh, okay. Well, Kamala Harris could very much do it. Pete Buttigieg could very much do it. Gretchen Whitmer could do it. Josh Shapiro could do it. Gavin Newsom could do it. Tim Walz could do it. Mark Kelly could do it. J.B. Pritzker could do it. Hakeem Jeffries could do it. It's such a long list of people where it would be like, yeah, just let me learn what I need to do, and I'm going to be a fine president, and there's going to be no concern. There's going to be no scandal. It's just going to be kind of a calm situation. And that's just a random smattering. Meanwhile, on the right, unless they want to go back to someone that MAGA hates, Mitt Romney, I don't agree with the guy, but like, he could be president, okay? Chris Christie, he could do it. But the people they think of are outrageous extremists, and there is no bench of reasonable people that could do the job. So a reminder, seeing Pete Buttigieg there, not only of the tone that Democrats need to strike, but also a reminder of why he may be in consideration to be Kamala Harris's vice presidential running mate. Elon Musk shared doctored AI manipulated video of Kamala Harris on his own platform X, which he says is not allowed. How did he get around it? Well, he deleted his original post and said it's merely a parody. The Associated Press says a manipulated video shared by Musk mimics Kamala Harris's voice, raising concerns about AI in politics. Now, Elon originally posted this video with "This is amazing" on Friday. He subsequently deleted it, and then eventually put it up as, "I checked with renowned world authority, Professor Sugon Deesnuts." Right. And he said parody is legal in America. The post has received, the original post had received 119 million views as of Sunday afternoon. He posted about it Friday. It was pointed out to be fake. It's still available and being viewed. Now, here is the video. And what really matters is the audio. So this is one of the things where if you're only listening, it's almost more impactful. It sounds like Kamala Harris. This is not Kamala Harris. This is AI audio. Now, I hear it. I know it's fake because I'm involved in this stuff every day. I think a lot of Americans who are just living their lives hear this and they just say, oh, wow, sounds like Kamala.
I, Kamala Harris, am your Democrat candidate for president because Joe Biden finally exposed his senility at the debate. Thanks, Joe. I was selected because I am the ultimate diversity hire. I'm both a woman and a person of color. So if you criticize anything I say, you're both sexist and racist. I may not know the first thing about running the country, but remember, that's a good thing if you're a deep state puppet. I had 4 years under the tutelage of the ultimate deep state puppet, a wonderful mentor, Joe Biden. Joe taught me rule number 1, carefully hide your total incompetence. I take insignificant things and I discuss them as if they're significant.
All right, so you get it. It goes on quite a bit longer, but you get it. I think many people involved in my show recognize that's very clearly fake. Those are not things Kamala Harris would say. But that's not apparent to everybody. There is still zero community note on Twitter saying this is manipulated media, probably because they are marking it as parody, even though when it gets reposted, it's not obvious that that's the case. A couple different things here. First of all, we saw this with Biden's voice during the New Hampshire primary. We're seeing it now with Kamala Harris's voice. The technology is clearly more than good enough that it is tricking people. And from a technological standpoint, I don't know what we do. I just don't know. It's not my area of expertise. We've talked to some experts. I don't know exactly what we do. It should be labeled. Okay, everybody agrees, label it as manipulated media. It's Elon Musk's platform. Elon Musk reposted it. It doesn't get labeled with manipulated media. What do? They're just not labeling it. And number two, it probably makes sense to be off Twitter in general. As many of you know, I rarely post. And when I do, I just post and leave. I don't look at the replies. That really angers some right-wingers who go out of the way to email me and go, David, you can't just post your liberal lies and then ignore the replies. I can do whatever I want with regard to paying attention to replies on Twitter. But my advice at this point is probably best to be off the platform. But this is going to be a major problem. It's already a problem in this election. What do we do with it? Let me know. info@davidpakman.com. If you value what we do at The David Pakman Show, remember to support us on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/David Pakman Show, where you can get access to behind the scenes videos, the daily bonus show, the commercial-free daily show. You can support the show for as little as $2 a month check it out at patreon.com/David Pakman Show. All right, if you think Donald Trump trying to explain what's in a book he didn't read is funny, as he's been doing with JD Vance's Hillbilly Elegy recently, that's nothing compared to Donald Trump trying to speak to Bitcoin bros and talk about Bitcoin as if he understands that. This is really, really good stuff. Trump spoke to the Bitcoin 2024 conference in Nashville, Tennessee over the weekend. And this, you know, when you didn't read the book, but you have to give a book report, this is just the best. And he also said some completely outrageous things during this speech. Take a listen.
And I don't think you've ever seen anything like it. And most people have no idea what the hell it is. You know that, right? So what happens when they figure it out? That's going to really be something.
Exactly. As soon as anybody, myself included, figures out what the hell Bitcoin is, it's really going to send shockwaves through the system. He then also told the Bitcoin bros, have fun with your Bitcoin and whatever else you're playing with, which of course shows us how seriously Trump is taking the entire cryptocurrency space.
Thank you all. Have a good time with your Bitcoin and your crypto and everything else that you're playing with.
Exactly. These are mere toys. So let me tell you what's happening simultaneously. It's a tale of two stories. On the one hand, Trump knows nothing about Bitcoin. He doesn't understand it. He doesn't really care about it. Other than he knows people ask him about donating with Bitcoin. He knows he's raised a lot of money with Bitcoin, both by accepting Bitcoin donations to his campaign, which he said that he's doing, and also through the NFTs that he was selling. He knows I can make money from this, but I also don't care about it and don't understand it. It's good in the way that anything is good to Trump if there is some direct benefit to him, and he's identified a direct benefit. Now, the most interesting parts of Trump's Bitcoin bro speech to me were that to the Bitcoin community, he refreshed and revitalized some of the same nonsense arguments from 2020. Like, for example, you're all finance people, I guess he thinks, if I don't win, I was going to say if Biden wins. It's now if Kamala Harris wins, we will have, you know what he's going to say, a 1929 style depression. You'll remember he said that in 2020 as well.
Greatest of all, and others that say the stock market's going up because they think Trump is going to be elected. And if Trump isn't elected, this country's going to go into a depression, the likes of which you had in 1929. And I hope that's not true, but I can understand it, and I can understand what they're saying. The stock market gain, they think, is because looks like we're going to win the election. And I don't know what's going to happen with the election, you know?
Yeah. Now, the argument that when the stock market goes up under Biden, it's because of the expectation that Trump's going to win is ridiculous, because he's been saying that for years. And we have all-time high after all-time high. And he expects us to believe that all of this is because of the expectation that he's going to win, even though it's a 50-50 coin flip at this point in the betting markets on average, although depending on which you look at, the numbers are changing quickly. But the most important part of it is he told us in 2020, if Biden wins, we will have a 1929 style depression. It obviously didn't happen or come anywhere close to happening, given the economic metrics right now. He had to shift. We call this a special pleading. He had to shift to, okay, it's not a 1929 style depression, but it's only because of the expectation that I will resume power in November, winning in November and getting back into the Oval Office in January. There is, of course, no actual economic basis for that belief, but he continues to repeat it. But now we're supposed to believe that the same prediction that failed in 2020 is going to happen this time. It's becoming increasingly difficult to believe. Trump also sort of threatened the crowd. If you don't elect me, you will get crushed. I guess suggesting that a Harris administration would be hostile to Bitcoin.
You don't hear those words anymore. We used to talk about the American dream. A lot of you people are in the American dream, but you're going to be crushed if you don't elect me. I hate to tell you. You don't elect me, you're going to be crushed. You're going to say, Alice, what a mistake it was. We went for a person who has no talent. She's been a failure at almost everything she's done instead of Trump. And look at us now. We're going to move into an extremely small house from our beautiful house.
There you go. And, I don't know if the American dream is best represented by, I bought some Bitcoin and got lucky. Listen, I bought some Bitcoin and got lucky. I've told people that I saw a presentation about Bitcoin back in 2015, and I bought a bunch of Bitcoin, and I've sort of been selling pieces of it. I don't think it was any particularly great economic insight. It was just like, oh, this might be a thing. I'll buy some and I'll hold some. But that represents the American dream doesn't really make any sense whatsoever. And of course, part of Trump's American dream is that his family is very smart. And he almost dove fully in front of the Bitcoin audience. He figured I should talk about MIT and my uncle.
That's what's gonna happen. I want the United States to be first in technology, first in science, first in manufacturing, first in artificial intelligence, and first in space. You know, at MIT, my uncle was a professor there, Dr. John Trump. He would have fit in with this room very nicely, actually. That's why I mention it. And I believe he was the longest serving professor in the history of MIT. He graduated. We have a very intelligent family, actually. He graduated tremendously. I think
he graduated tremendously. So I'll leave that one with no comment. And then finally, as a topic of interest to the Bitcoin community, he says electricity will be a priority of his.
But we will be creating so much electricity that you'll be saying, please, please, President, we don't want any more electricity. We can't stand it. You'll be begging me, no more electricity, sir. We have enough.
Sir, we have too much of it. People will be shocked, pun intended. People will be shocked by the amount of electricity that Trump is going to produce. So attempting and failing to speak to the Bitcoin audience, he doesn't know anything about it. He doesn't care anything about it other than can he make money from it? And it seems like the answer so far is yes. I want to play for you a very interesting interview that vice presidential running mate to Trump, JD Vance, gave. The interview was conducted by none other than Donald Trump Jr. Now, Jr. was completely out of his mind, seemingly sped up during this interview. I want to let you know, I am not speeding up the video here. This is the normal, natural speed of the video. And Jr. is out of his mind. What I think is happening here is that the rumor that Don Jr. and Eric pushed Trump to pick JD Vance is true. The selection is backfiring for all of the reasons we talked about. JD's gaffes, his turning off of large swaths of voters, his previous comments and emails and text messages coming to light. It all seems to be backfiring. My guess is that Don Jr. is feeling like he really needs to do something to try to help JD Vance. He's feeling guilty that he led his dad towards such a disastrous choice. And so he's just hopped up out of his mind. Listen to this interview. And again, I have not sped up the video.
Like there's some of them are like, we don't even want white women. Like it doesn't like, we need to check like 3 or 4 boxes. So you can end up in like, if you're like, you know, a trans communist, this, that, and the other, like you too can be the CEO of a Fortune 500 company with no experience whatsoever. He's actually spent real time with them. Like, and he's sort of, I would say he's the blue-collar billionaire. And 15 years ago when I said it, people used to shit all over me. Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you don't understand. And now they understand. What the borders are, wrote the article. It wasn't even like it was the same publication. It was the same journalist. I'm like, this you? Like, to literally save democracy, because it's literally at risk, JD.
And if you're only listening, you can't see, first of all, the absolutely bizarre way that he's sitting in the chair, but also the hands are just gesticulating wildly.
That's why I keep hearing notion that, you know, democracy is all things, but if the elite, meaning, you know, Barack Obama, the Clintons, a couple billionaire donors be like, okay, this isn't working. We're going to take everything we gave you. We didn't give you any other options. We threw, you know, RFK off the ticket. Yep. We basically tried to push anyone else from happening. So we gave you your only choice. You actually then chose that person. And now America is not there. Now they're pretending, no, she's a moderate. They did the same thing with Joe Biden. He's going to be so moderate. He's so moderate. Look, he's moderate. Yeah. The policies were not. Yes. I hate to say it, but like literally, no, like, but it's like me, a couple other people that we're friends with that are like, hey.
All right. So I won't subject you to the entire thing. Couple different things that are going on here. Number one, he seems to be panicking about the fact that the guy he pushed his dad to choose is failing and failing very, very hard. Secondly, with regard to substance use, I can't say anything about it. I mean, he's extremely shiny and sweaty. He's speaking a mile a minute. Obviously, there are signs there, but I don't know. It might just be caffeine, right? I think that that's what we have to continue going with. And then number three, the collapse in MAGA world if Trump ultimately relents and replaces JD Vance with someone who that is, we don't know. There are rumors flying that it's going to be Nikki Haley, but would Nikki Haley even do it at this point in time after being ridiculed and insulted by Trump time and time and time again for months during the Republican primary and then not selected? Would she really accept Trump coming to her and going, hey, listen, what about now? I have no idea. But what I do look forward to is the complete implosion from Don Jr. We have a voicemail number. That number is 219-2-DAVID-P. Here's a voicemail about a Republican convention related story that I did hear about, did not have the opportunity to talk about on the show, but I do want to say a brief word about it. Take a listen.
Hi, David Paxman. My name is Jessica. I'm calling from Des Moines, Iowa, and I just wanted to know if you had read or heard anything about the spike in anonymous Grindr users during the RNC this year, and if you had any thoughts on that, if it's coincidence or...
So listen, Grindr is I think it's just a gay dating app. I don't know if it's LGBT or I think it started as a gay dating app. And there are reports that there was so much anonymous Grindr app usage in Milwaukee during the RNC that the app crashed. Now, was it some kind of DDoS attack? Was it a fabricated crash to make it look as if all of these closeted gay Republicans were in Milwaukee? I have no idea, but let's assume it's a real story. To me, the only part of it that's interesting, I don't care what people are doing. I don't care who you're attracted to or what your gender identity is. Go do whatever you want. I don't care about that. The story to me would be the degree to which, listen, we all intuitively know it's not like gay men are overwhelmingly likely to be Republican. In fact, based on the Republican Democratic Party histories of pushing for or trying to curtail gay rights, I would imagine that most LGBT individuals, or at least more than their share of the population, lean towards Democrats than to Republicans. But it's really a story about oppression and suppression and the sad state of affairs that if the reports are true about the anonymous Grindr usage in Milwaukee crashing the app, it's just a sad state of affairs that even in 2024, with legal gay marriage everywhere, with this really it's just not a big deal to anyone who is even remotely connected to the modernity of life in the United States in 2024. The fact that if you're a gay Republican, you feel the need to hide it, that's really the sad thing. And I get wanting lower taxes, right? We hear about, there's wealthy gay couples, 2 men, no kids, high income. They want low taxes. I get it. You want the lower taxes, but still defending a party that makes the environment such that you have to completely erase your actual identity publicly. It's a disaster. It's tragic. It's sad. And that's my only real takeaway. On the bonus show today, more follow-up from the FBI about the Trump assassination attempt. We will talk about a video game performer strike that is upcoming and also a controversy involving the oldest federal judge and the attempt to remove her from the bench. All of those stories and more on today's bonus show.
Oh, the bonus show where you want to make money. Everybody else that makes money to fund themselves is bad.
If you don't have a problem with me, I think you'll enjoy the bonus show.
David Pakman does not have a soul. He doesn't have a soul.
Candace Owens will not be enjoying the bonus show. Sign up at joinpakman.com. You can pre-order my forthcoming book, The Echo Machine, at davidpakman.com/echo. And I'll be back tomorrow if you are not getting access to the bonus show yet. See you then. Thanks a lot for watching today's show. I just want to take a second to tell you about today's sponsors. The foodies in my audience should check this out. Our sponsor, Cook Unity, is a unique service that connects you with some of the best chefs in the country. Cook Unity is a collective of award-winning chefs who handcraft spectacular dishes in their local micro kitchens to arrive at your doorstep every week, always fresh and never frozen. They have hundreds of dishes to choose from, no cooking required. You heat it up and it is ready to eat. Go to cookunity.com/Pacman and use the code Pacman before checkout for 50% off your first week.